There's been a redistricting is going on all over the country. Now, normally they do this with the census at the turn of the decade every year, but it's a little bit different right now. There's a lot of political reasons that people are throwing out and about for it. They're saying that it's because of illegal immigration and cheating and this and that. And as a Republican, as a conservative, as someone who voted for Donald Trump, I'm more than happy to call a spade and tell you the real reason they want to redistrict. It's because Donald Trump doesn't want to lose the House in 2026. That's all there is to it. And I agree with a lot of their reasoning for why they want to redistrict. I think the logic makes sense. I think Democrats, if you look at the maps of Illinois and the way the Democrats set Louisiana up, and California and Massachusetts and New Hampshire, it's horribly gerrymandered, to benefit the Democrats. So I think it's about time the Republicans start fighting back. Yes, of course, there's gerrymandering in Republican districts as well, but not near to the extent that you see in these Democrat states. For instance, states like Rhode Island, states like Connecticut, states like, I can go, the list goes on and on. 40 to 45% voted Republican in those states. Nearly 45% voted Republican in those states, and they don't even have a single representative in Congress. That's called gerrymandering. They intentionally draw the districts up among partisan lines. There's more Democrats in this neighborhood, so we're going to include this neighborhood in this little pocket of this city and this district and put the others there so that they can get more votes and have majorities in Congress. That's all it's ever been about. Well, the Republicans are finally fighting back. Now, the reasons that you're hearing from a lot of these Republicans is, again, something I agree with, not just that the Democrats have cheated, but the reality of the situation is illegal immigrants count toward the census, and the census is how we determine electoral votes and seats in the House of Representatives. So when people tell you illegal immigrants don't vote, we can argue about whether or not they do or don't. The reality is, though, they assist the Democrats by going to states like California when they say we're going to be a sanctuary state where we're going to give you free shit and you won't be deported. They know that when the Census Bureau rolls around and it's time to count up all the districts, that's going to help them. So they entice people to come illegally into this country, live off of the welfare benefits and break the law. And then they bring them into their states so that they can get more congressional districts. It's flat out cheating. And then under Joe Biden, you saw nearly 10 million people enter the country illegally in less than 4 years. So I understand they say, hey, we know there's been this egregious amount of bullshit. We're trying to correct. We don't want to count illegal immigrants toward the census anymore. Let's redistrict now rather than waiting for the census to come out so we can fight back against this. And yeah, in the process, we're not going to lose the House. It's politics. I'm willing to call it like it is. I don't think a lot of Republicans are. I think a lot of conservatives are out there dancing around, well, no, this is just us fighting back. Two things can be true at once. You want to fight back because you've gotten screwed for so many years, and you also don't want to lose the House, which you're probably going to do if you don't redistrict. So what's going to happen is Texas is going to get about 5 more districts that are going to turn red. Florida's going to have about 5 districts turn red. Missouri's going to have a district turn red. Indiana could have 1 to 2 districts turn red, along with Ohio, anywhere between 2 and 3 there. Even Nebraska, we're talking about redistricting Nebraska to turn that second district that the Democrats love so much, that little blue dot, into a solid red one, which I've been saying we should do for a long, long time. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. You wouldn't have to worry about winner take all because it'd be irrelevant. It'd be R plus 10 if they include a significant amount of land north of Omaha. Not North Omaha, towns north of Omaha. So everyone's freaking out about this. And in Texas, that's the rundown. There's a whole bunch of nitty gritty we can get into. It's a 2-hour show. I don't have time to talk about it, and I really don't care enough to talk about it. But that's the lowdown on it. We've got the Supreme Court is now looking at something that came out of the VRA, the Voting Rights Amendment, which established congressional districts along racial lines. Now, congressional districts along racial lines, as you guessed, are only a one-way street. There's no one that has made congressional districts intentionally to benefit white people. It doesn't happen. In fact, it's quite the opposite. You have districts in the Deep South, Republican states, that should be dark red districts that have been intentionally gerrymandered and turned into Democratic districts because the VRA says you have to have X amount of racial districts in it. Well, the Supreme Court is finally taking a look at that, and they're saying, hey, this isn't fair. And in fact, it's actually kind of fucking racist. And there's a good chance that gets struck down as well, which could add anywhere between 15 to 20 seats for the Republicans. You see them in Alabama, you see them in Mississippi and Georgia. Texas has a couple of them. So that's something that could change rather quickly there. Again, I agree with it. It should have nothing to do with somebody's race. We want to talk about counties and district lines and all that. That's fine. But what your race is and which way you vote shouldn't play into it. I don't understand why that's even a controversial topic there. So there's a lot of chaos going on in Texas. Texas is where this all centers at. California's trying to do the same thing. It's going to be a little bit more difficult because they got to go to court. And Newsom said he's going to come out and redistrict. Mia, can you guess how many times he said goddamn? Over or under 5.5 in that speech? Over. Yeah, I'm going to goddamn redistrict the goddamn state, goddamn it. Goddamn Arnold Schwarzenegger can't say a goddamn thing to me. We're going to get more goddamn Democrats in the goddamn Capitol Hill. Schwarzenegger is opposing it. So it's just all types of chaos going on over in California. I don't think anything's going to happen in enough time. So Texas is where it's all centered. Jasmine Crockett, Rep Ratchet, our favorite congressional Democrat, is one of the people who will, in all likelihood, lose her seat if this goes through. I know, the horrors. What are we going to do without news clips like this to make fun of on this show for a solid 15 minutes every week?
There was a benefit to shining a light on what it was that they were trying to do in the dark in Texas. So unfortunately, we've seen our numbers fall now that they have these voter restrictions in place. But I do think it's important for us to have the conversation around the...
Or clips like this one.
And so I want people to see him and understand who he is. This is a person that has a problem with people of color, period. I don't care how many black Maga out there with their hats. I want to be clear, when we look at who it is that he's kicking out of this country is people of color. When we look at who he always disrespects and says that they are low IQ, even though when you look at his cabinet, this has to be the most incompetent cabinet we have ever had in the history of this country. When we're talking about people that literally have the ability to drop bombs or order that bombs be dropped or make recommendations that bombs be dropped.
That's how it works,
and
yes.
They literally don't know how to get the signal chat right. So we're talking about low IQ individuals, but so long as they say that this guy is their guy, and usually if they work for a certain news network, that's the only qualification that's
What is
necessary.
she talking about?
I've got news for the president. I am not going anywhere, no matter how many squiggly lines they draw in the state of Texas.
Well, you are going somewhere. If they remove your racially gerrymandered district, you are almost certainly going to lose. I love that first video there where she talks about the voter ID laws and how they've affected her. She points out, Mia, you couldn't hear it because I fucked up when I added it, but she points out in that video that when they put the voter ID laws in, she started to lose votes. And the Democrat Party as a whole saw their voter or their total voter share begin to decline. And it's like you guys are almost starting to get it, right? It's almost like there was something to the claims of electoral fraud. And when we started telling people, we actually have to verify who the hell you are before you can come in and cast your vote in this supposedly sacred democracy, because that's what the left tells us all the time, is that our democracy is so sacred and it must be protected. But we can't protect it by asking for your ID. We can protect your money in the bank by asking for your ID, much to the dismay of the older gentleman that was in line in front of me the other day that had an absolute meltdown because they asked for his ID. But we're not going to protect our democracy. It's actually a republic, but whatever. I'm not going to argue semantics. We're not going to protect our democracy by asking to see your ID. We're just going to take you at your word, because why would anyone ever cheat? It's not like you guys have polarized both sides of the aisle to the extent that they think every 2 years, if the other party wins, they're going to put them in concentration camps. Why would anyone cheat if they thought their family's life was quite literally on the line depending on this election. There's no incentive to cheat. None whatsoever. But I just love it. I love it. Yeah, when they started requiring people to prove who they were, we didn't get as many votes. Huh. I wonder why that is. This is the opposite. So when Tom Brady got accused of Deflategate, of deflating footballs, and it was such a ridiculous, even if he did do it, it was such a ridiculous, quote unquote conspiracy. It was such a witch hunt. And yes, I'm a Patriots fan, so I'm a little biased, but it really was. Tom Brady came out and said, fine, you can go ahead and check our balls. No pun intended there. You can go ahead and check our balls. No homo, I should have said. We'll be under more scrutiny than any other team in the league, and we're going to come out. And you know what they did? They steamrolled everybody they played and won the Super Bowl. This is the opposite of that. We accuse you of cheating, and then the moment we remove the thing that we think you're doing to cheat, your performance starts to decline. That's what you're watching right there with the Democrats, and she just admitted it on national television. So Texas, you've got all the Democrats in the state House and Senate in Texas, out of a protest for this, decided that they were going to flee the state. And they weren't going to allow a vote to come to the floor, which, by the way, is illegal in every state. This isn't the first time it's happened. It happened in Wisconsin a while back when there were some disputes going on. And they fled, ironically enough, to Illinois, which is the most gerrymandered state in the country. But like I said, rules for thee, not for me. Just so happens to benefit the Democrats. So now they're saying that, so Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, comes out and says, hey, if you flee the state and you don't come back here by XYZ date, I'm going to arrest you. You're breaking the law. You're slowing down the democratic process, by the way, of this democracy that you hold so near and dear. You're hurting it. You need to get back here. And all the Democrats are chanting, oh, tyrant, he's acting like a dictator. Guys, you can't. No, Martin Luther King Jr. said you have a moral obligation to break a law that you truly believe is unjust, but at the same time, you have to be willing to accept whatever that punishment is. So you don't get to break the law knowing what the consequence is for breaking said law, then turn around and accuse them of tyranny when you get the consequence that you knew was coming the whole time. And they're not saying that the law against delaying the democratic process is unconstitutional. That's not what they're complaining about. They're complaining about what they believe to be gerrymandering, what we believe to be giving them a taste of their own medicine. So they're not even protesting that specific law. This would be like if they passed a law that said, I don't know, what's a good example here? If I didn't like stoplights, if I thought that stoplights were unconstitutional, so I hopped on the interstate and I drove 100 miles an hour out of town to protest stoplights, and I got pulled over and I went, how dare you ticket me? You tyrant. Yes, I broke a completely different law that has nothing to do with this out of protest. But this is proof that you're acting like a dictator by enforcing a law that's been on the book for centuries and been used against both parties on numerous occasions. Tyrants. Well, this is Jolanda Jones. She's a Democratic representative in the state of Texas. Here's what she had to say about all this.
And then integration happened and everybody thought they accept us. They don't accept us. They are showing us who they are. We should believe them. And we better have the courage to stand up. Otherwise, we will fall for anything. And in this country, we will be defeated, deported. I mean, we will lose all of our rights. And if you think it can't happen, it can. And I will liken this to the Holocaust. People are like, well, how did the Holocaust happen? How was somebody in a position to kill all them people? Well, good people remain silent. Or good people didn't realize that what happens to them can very soon happen to me or somebody I love. And so even if you made it, man, you have an obligation to help people who can't, because God forbid they end up targeting you and your family.
Mm-hmm. You didn't mishear that. The Holocaust. The Holocaust. They changed the way a couple of lines look on a map because they feel they've been gerrymandered for decades. And she likens it to the Holocaust. Now, a lot of folks on the left, if I went up on stage as a comedian and made a joke about the Holocaust, they would tell me it was in poor taste and I shouldn't be allowed to say that, and that venue shouldn't book me again. That's fine. You can have that opinion. I disagree with you on it. But when they but at the end of the day, that's a joke. It's not said with any malice behind it. It's simply an attempt at humor. But when they come out and in a serious tone, 100% serious, bastardize the Holocaust, water it down, diminish the meaning behind what actually happened and the pain that was actually experienced to prove a political point about congressional districts, that's okay. Do you want to know what this really is? Whenever a liberal brings up the Holocaust and they liken what the current regime's doing to what was happening under Nazi Germany, all this is projection. All this is projection, because we've got all the power. We've got the courts, we've got the House, we've got the Senate, we've got the White House. And they can try to run with whatever nonsense narratives they want, but at the end of the day, they're still allowed to come out and say the garbage they spew. They're still allowed to pretend to be whatever gender they feel like when they wake up in the morning. Nothing has actually happened to people who aren't actively breaking the law, no matter which way they spin it. Nothing. And yes, there have been a couple mistakes with the ICE raids, but they're not going out and targeting groups of people that look a certain way or think differently than them. All this is projection. Because if they get this type of power, if God forbid they ever somehow manage to take back the White House, Senate, and House and then turn around and pack the Supreme Court, and they'll do it. They tried to. They didn't have the votes to get it done in the Senate, and it was unpopular. And they needed to worry about getting reelected. But God forbid, if they ever got to that, they would lock you the fuck up the second they got the chance to. The second. This ain't your grandma and grandpa's Democrat Party, all right? This ain't even the Democrat Party of 15 years ago. If these lunatics that have sat, you've got two types of, the base of the Democrat Party has been transformed into two types of people. You've got these 75-year-old geriatrics that have broiled their brains watching MSNBC nonstop all day, and they call their congressman's office daily asking what he's going to do to stop Trump. And then you've got these 25-year-old Zoomers and younger millennials, or 25 to 35-year-old Zoomers and millennials that have fried their brains on TikTok and Twitter and Facebook all day, and they sit there and they just doom scroll constantly. That's all they do. And it's just fear porn and Trump this, Nazi that, Hitler this. And it's all they consume. It defines them. And that's become the base of their party, is just unhinged old people and unhinged young people. And that's why and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the show, but that's why they're driving so many of them away. So they've got this unhinged base that did not exist 15 years ago. These old people were not being exposed to the level of fear porn on MSNBC that they were, or that they are now. That wasn't happening during the Obama administration. They've taken people that, unfortunately, a lot of these people, they were working back then. They had families. They had things going on. Now they're retired and they have nothing to do. So they've taken these people and they've sat them in front of the TV. They watch 4 to 5 hours a day minimum of cable news, and then they spend another 2 to 3 on Facebook typing in all caps, yelling at people and just panicking. And they've transformed this generation of old people into lunatics. Absolutely, 100%. The way they have radicalized their base, if these people ever took over, they would make you face the fucking wall for voting differently than them. And I have no doubt about that in my mind. All right, let's go to the next segment here. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, be sure to click the link in the description to get the full episode on Rumble. If you prefer to listen along, you could actually get us on Spotify, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio. You can also go to www.outlawstreamers.com to learn more about not just my show, but tons of other great shows and all the exciting projects they have coming up. Follow my socials at Caleb Isn't Funny on Twitter and Instagram, at Caleb Salvatore Comedy on the Chinese Spy app that is TikTok, and be sure to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks, and we'll see you every Saturday for brand new episodes of That's Based. Peace.